Hollow Knight is the critically acclaimed prequel to Hollow Knight Silksong, a game which I was worried was going to release before I finished this video when I started it 6 months ago. It didn't. The game tasks you with stealing the infection and saving the dying kingdom of Hallownest. To do this, you play as this guy, a soulless killing machine rampaging through the kingdom, massacring anything and everything that gets in your way. But mindlessly killing all the citizens of Hallownest seems counterproductive to saving them. So today I asked the question, can you beat Hollow Knight as a pacifist? No, obviously not. To beat the game, we have to kill the Hollow Knight in the Temple of the Black Egg, and to even get into the temple, we have to kill the 3 Dreamers, 2 of which are guarded by unskippable bosses, and the last is guarded by a massive gauntlet of enemies. As such, this will be a minimalist run, where we go through the game killing the fewest number of enemies possible. For this run, we'll be using the in-game Hunter's Journal to track kills. Unfortunately, since the Hunter's Journal records any enemy death on screen, if any enemy dies from other causes like falling spikes, acid lakes, or just blowing themselves up, it is legally our fault. This does let us use some loopholes, like Watcher Knights won't count as a kill unless we kill all of the Knights, but for the most part, we're gonna have to babysit every enemy in our vicinity. There are some semantics with these rules, but we'll get to them later. So, without further ado, let's begin the run. At the start of the game, we have to go through the tutorial area, King's Pass. There aren't any real threats here, just make sure these Vengeflies don't get killed by this stalactite. Since we don't have Hunter's Journal at the start of the game, we have to be really careful to make sure no enemies die. If you don't notice an enemy dying here, you'll have to reset once you get the Hunter's Journal. Oops. If you accidentally kill an enemy, you can just Alt F4 to reload your save. Just make sure you don't bench or die after an enemy dies, since that'll save over the kill. And this is where the Pacifist run dies. This room is absolutely mandatory to access the rest of Crossroads, but doing so requires us to kill 3 Aspids. Even if we use the secret path above the arena, we can't go any further past this hot spring room. In fact, since we don't have any movement upgrades, this path locks us into the Aspid chamber. So unfortunately, we just have to set these Aspids up for a tragic accident. The Hunter's Journal counts these as kills, but we can pretend it wasn't our fault. With the rest of Crossroads unlocked, we can head straight to False Knight. Just try not to die on the way there. And this is where we encountered the second roadblock of the run. We don't have to kill False Knight himself, but these 3 bugs are killed when he drops down into the arena. I tried to stop this by baiting them outside the arena, but once we get the Hunter's Journal, we can see that they still died. You can also see on this test file with Gathering Swarm that we still get the Geo from them. Since Vengeful Spirit is required to get into Green Path, we can't afford False Knight killing these guys. Still, since we didn't kill them ourselves, we can pretend it wasn't our fault. After False Knight finishes his tantrum, we can break the left wall to escape without killing him. I'm sure the Snail Shaman agrees that those guys dying wasn't our fault. It seems he does agree and is using the same loophole to have us kill an Elder Boulder for him, so it's not his fault. This section is a bit precarious, but we can just damage boost past the spikes. And while this looks like the boulder just rolled off the edge, we can see once we get Journal that he actually survives. Okay, I went back in editing and tested this with Gathering Swarm, and the boulder actually does die. You can see I get his Geo here. If you want to save him, you can just hit him to the left like this. Anyways, assuming you don't kill that guy like an idiot, bait in some extra enemies to get enough soul for the 4th Vengeful Spirit without having to kill a small boulder. Unfortunately though, this Elder Boulder marks our first direct kill. And our luck doesn't get any better, since we can't do that same strategy for the Green Path Elder Boulder. There are no other enemies on this screen, and we can't get enough soul to cast Vengeful Spirit from a single boulder without killing it. I considered a few other ways to get soul, but none of them work. The Soul Catcher charm doesn't give us enough soul to cast another Vengeful Spirit. There aren't enough grubs in Crossroads to get Grub Song. Shaman Stone requires killing Groz's mother, all her children, and doing a Shade Skip. You could also use Longnail, but that has the same issue. The Lantern, and thus Dreamnail, is also locked behind Groz's mother, not to mention we'd somehow have to get 1800 Geo in Crossroads without killing any enemies. And we can't get enough Vessel Fragments for another Soul Vessel, so unfortunately we just have to kill this little boulder to get into Green Path. Once we get into Green Path, we could Fireball skip to chase Hornet, but my top priority is getting Hunter's Journal to make sure I haven't messed up anywhere. The path to Journal is pretty simple, just make sure you don't crush these guys with these blocks. With the Hunter's Journal, we can track which enemies we've killed and how many. The game automatically gives you the Crawled and Shade entries, but by using the Number Left to Defeat section, we can see that as expected, we've killed 3 Aspids, 1 of each generic Husk enemy, 1 Boulder, and the 2 Elder Boulders. Now that we have the journal, we can always tell if we've killed any new enemies from the Hunter's Journal sound effect. Unfortunately, we'll be seeing this effect pretty much immediately. All other ways to Hornet require movement upgrades we can't get yet, meaning killing this Moss Knight is mandatory. At least this lets us see the new journal entry icon and sound effect. Thankfully for him, the rules forbid us from stealing the glory of Zote the Mighty, so I'm sure he'll have a great story to tell once he's killed the Vengefly King. Oh, never mind. Hornet 1 is a mandatory boss fight, so we're forced to kill her. After we beat Hornet, the Dreamers show up to do something. It doesn't actually affect you at all. I'm not sure why this scene is in the game. Unfortunately, since I spent 50 Geo on this toll earlier, I couldn't afford the Stag Station back to Crossroads, so I decided to get to Fungal Waste through Fog Canyon. The annoying thing about Fog Canyon is that since every enemy dies in one hit, we can't get any soul off of them. Unfortunately, we can't actually progress this way. This route locks you into a fight with these 2 mushrooms, and the other option puts us on the wrong side of this shortcut. So back to Crossroads it is. Just make sure this Vengefly doesn't get killed by these golems in this room. Don't bother resting at Leg Eater, the section is really easy. If he jumps into the... I should have camped at Leg Eater. Take the top route here, and don't give the mushrooms the chance to jump into the acid. Make sure these explosives don't activate near any enemies, because they can and will blow themselves up. It was at this exact moment I decided I actually was allowed to kill my Shade. I mean, you start off with the journal entry already unlocked, and it isn't really an enemy, so it's fine. Anyway, now that we have Mantis Claw, it's off to Deep Nest to get Trampas. Like usual, Deep Nest is the worst area in the game. It's filled to the brim with spikes, floor traps that reveal spikes, and enemies that spawn out of nowhere, climb out of any trap you stick them in, and seem magnetically attracted to the damn spikes. And to top it all off, I'm pretty sure their spawn locations are RNG, so you better get lucky or you'll be redoing the first room over and over again. Once you reach the hot springs, you'd better be ready to commit to Deep Nest, because you aren't leaving until you get Trampas. Directly after the hot spring room, I recommend luring this guy down onto this ledge. Then, wait for this guy to move far enough to the right that his dash won't make him fall off this edge. Do not rest at this bench. We don't want to have to backtrack through that area once we have Trampas. Once we get Trampas, we can save and quit to warp back to the hot springs and get the hell out of Deep Nest. For now. Now that we're out of Deep Nest, we can take the tram and Crossroads to go get Dream now. First though, we have to actually get back to Crossroads. I was gonna use this stag station, but I was far too broke for that. This might have actually been a blessing in disguise though, since I remembered I could open a shortcut to lower resting grounds by taking the elevator in City. I also found a weird bug, where if an enemy dies to the top of an elevator, the Hunter's Journal won't update, meaning it legally isn't my fault. I think this is to stop Geo from spawning inside the elevator spikes, but it's weird that it affects the journal. Anyways, this shortcut lets us get the Dream now straight from City. Now that we have the Dream now, we can get to actually hunting down the Dreamers. First though, we have to unlock Sly so we can buy Lantern. I wanted this to prepare for Deep Nest, but we'll actually be using it to get into Crystal Peaks. This also lets us activate this shortcut if we need to access Salubra again. Just make sure you save afterwards. Eventually we'll be buying Lantern, but that is a lot of Geo. I decided the easiest way to get Geo would be by selling relics. I remembered there was one at the edge of Howling Cliff, so I went to get it. While I was here, I decided to get Cyclone Slash. This ended up being pretty useless though, there aren't really many applications for nail arts in a Pacifist run. I also remembered this journal in Green Path, and this Hallownest seal. Then I remembered there's a chest full of Geo after Watcher Nights, so I headed to Watcher's Spire. Unfortunately, this is where we find our next required kill. The lever on the right is required to get any further, but we can't get to it without killing this big god. We only need to kill the large guard to open the door, but since we only have Base Nail and Vengeful Spirit, this takes a while. Using the chandelier doesn't give you a journal entry, so it's legally not my fault. Although we do still have to kill the Watch Knights, and since we don't have any damage upgrades, this takes a while. Combined with the relics I got earlier, this chest gives us all the Geo we'll need for the run. This extra relic also doesn't hurt. This also gives us our first of 3 Dreamers. Now that I've killed Lurian, my next goal is to sell relics to Lem and buy Lantern. And since I'm already in city, it isn't too far of a walk. Just don't go through this room on the way back to the station. Don't go through this room either. Now that we actually have money, we can use the King Station Stag to get back to Dirtmouth. And now that I'm rich, I can afford to hire people to pick up all my money. Oh, and also Lantern. In retrospect, I really shouldn't have killed Lurian, since getting through Crossroads is now a complete nightmare. But thankfully, we won't be staying for long. In comparison, Crystal Peaks is a lot easier to get through. Hell, dreamnailing Crystal Guardian is easier than killing him for his bench. And the platforming section doesn't even have any enemies, so it could never be a threat to the run. Although you do still need some skill. Now that we have Crystal Dash, we can head to Teacher's Archives. Just make sure this guy doesn't die on the way there. And also, don't do this. I am a fucking idiot. Umu is another required boss, so we're allowed to kill it. Although again, since I had no upgrades, this fight takes a while. About the same as Watcher Knife, actually. The fight also takes a while because I'm not very good at this game. With Monomon dead, we just have Hera left. Thankfully, we can skip the worst parts of Deep Nest by just taking the train from Ancient Basin. Unthankfully, we still have to go through the rest of Deep Nest. Nothing here is too challenging, but Deep Nest enemies just love dropping into spike pits. Not related to the challenge, but this scene is really weird without the distorted music. Beast's Den might not have an actual boss, but these stalking Dabbits might as well be required, since they take up the entire room. After dying a few times though, I realised I might be able to fit through the gap above their head. I was trying to get it to move left here, but I found the most reliable way to get it to move was just to stand in front of it and wait for it to retreat. The problem is that we can't get past it when it stands at the back of its corridor. With a bit of luck though, it'll move forward while we're above it, letting us get past. Afterwards, you can dreamnail these small spiders to heal back to full. The second Dabbit is pretty easy to pass, but we run into issues with the third. There isn't a gap in the ceiling, so we can't get past it like we did the first. But eventually, I realised I could bait it into the open where I could jump over it. That's the last dreamer down. With all three dreamers dead, all that's left is the Hollow Knight. The exploding husk in this room could be an issue, but we can easily skip even seeing him with Crystal Dash. I don't have anything left to say, so I'll just let the gameplay speak for itself. And so, our Pacifist run is complete. Our final results are 3 Aspids, 3 random husks, a boulder, 2 Elder Boulders, a Moss Knight, Hornet, a Great Husk Sentry, Watcher Knights, Umu, the Hollow Knight, my Shade, and a couple random city enemies I killed with elevators. So with the Pacifist run done, mission complete. You know, that's kind of a lot. I can accept the Aspids, Elder Boulders, and the required bosses since they all directly gate progression, but the rest are just unacceptable. I mean, seriously, letting innocent civilians of Hallownest die in tragic elevator accidents? Not noticing a boulder jumping into a spike pit? That's hardly a Pacifist run. So I redid the run to do it properly and look for new ways to save kills. My plan was to use sequence breaks to skip required kills, but I realised I'm already using most of the sequence breaks I know to get to Lurien and Monomon. I did have one last sequence break to get into fungal bases. This lets you skip dash, which avoids killing Hornet and a Moss Knight. But we can't go down from Queen Station because of this door, and we can't go right since we get locked into this arena until we kill the Shroomal Ogres. So, since we have to kill 2 enemies to save 2, the total enemies killed doesn't change. And since we need Vengeful Spirit to get into Green Path and do the Fireball skip, most of the required kills are still necessary. So sure, we could finish the run making sure we don't kill that one boulder, our Shade, or any of the City of Tears enemies, but besides exchanging Hornet and the Moss Knight for 2 Shroomal Ogres, we can't get the kill count down any further. At least, not on current patch. You see, Team Cherry has patched out a lot of glitches over the years, but if we roll back to version 1.2.2.1, we can access all the jank they didn't want us to have. The first of our new tricks is the inventory drop. You can actually do this in current patch, but it's frame perfect after falling off a ledge, and it isn't useful. We do still have to kill the 3 Aspids, but after that, we can completely break the game. By inventory dropping onto a Mask Shard or a Vessel Fragment, we unlock the power of flight. So long as we hold the jump button, we can gain infinite height. The problem is that the only way to get back down is to run into a sloped ceiling. It is possible to get out of this room using a specific section of the ceiling, but I only managed this once in about 2 hours. Instead, by saving the 5 grubs in Crossroads, we can activate the glitch at Grubfather. This makes actually using it a lot easier. Reloading the game fixes the glitch and lets us move normally again. Now that we're in Fungal Wastes, we need to get Claw to make any progress. Unfortunately, I accidentally died in Fungal Wastes, and since I'm not allowed to kill my Shade, this means we'll permanently have less soul capacity. But since we don't have any spells to actually use soul on, this really isn't that bad. What's actually annoying is that we can't get back our Geo. Since we can't kill enemies to farm it, Geo is a limited resource in this run. Since our Shade takes 2 hits to kill, we can actually still use Shade skips. Or at least we can try. Since we skip Dash, we can't actually get into the Mantis village. I tried to Shade skip over this wall, but the Shade actually spawns on the other side, so it doesn't work. So we need another way into the Mantis village. Luckily, version 1.2.2.1 is janky as hell. That's right, in 1.2.2.1 you can pogo not only the projectile, but also the explosion. From here, it might take a few attempts, but by pogoing across this gap, we can get our hands on our first upgrade, Mantis Claw. Now that we have Mantis Claw, our top priority is getting Hunter's Journal to make sure we haven't accidentally killed anything. As you can see, we've only killed the 3 Aspids. Now, at this point, what I should have done is backed up my save file to make sure I didn't have to restart if I messed up. This is not what I did. Honestly, I have no idea how to consistently get through the first room, just keep trying until it works. Once we get past that room though, nothing can stop us until Crystal Dash. There's a few tricky sections, but nothing we can't get past with a little ingenuity. In the last run we had to kill the Husk Guard to get into Watcher's Spire, but now we can just hit the lever through the wall. This doesn't turn the lights on though, so you'll have to get up in the dark. Unfortunately, Watcher Nights are still difficult, so I went to get some upgrades. Quick Focus was the main upgrade I was looking for, but I figured Cyclone Slash might help too. It's not going to save the run or anything, but it's a nice option to have. I still died 3 times, but I got him in the end. Now we have more than enough money to get into Peaks, although killing Lurien might have been a mistake. This is where our progress streak ends. In low percent runs, which I was getting my dashless strategies from, they use a Fireball skip to get past this jump. I tried using a Shade skip instead of Fireball, but I couldn't find a way to get the Shade low enough to bounce off. We need Crystal Dash, Isma's Tear, or Shade Cloak to get to Monomoy. And since Shade Cloak requires killing Hornet 2, and Isma's requires killing Dung Defender, Crystal Dash is our only option. So I decided to use the Float Glitch again. The problem though is how to actually activate it. My initial plan was to use the Mask Shard in Bretta's house, but we can't get up to Bretta without Dash. I looked at some other options, but we can't get the Queen Station Mask Shard without Dash. I tried this Mask Shard, but I couldn't get out of the area with the Float Glitch. We can't activate the glitch by buying a shard from Sly. I considered this shard in Waterways, but we can't get to it without this guy blowing himself up. My last idea was to use a Shade Skip to get up to Bretta. I can only hit it once without it dying, but it could help. But apparently, a Mantis youth died at some point. and since I didn't make a backup, I had to reset the entire run. I guess one reset wasn't enough to teach me my lesson though, since after getting Claw again, I fucked up. This was the point where I started backing up my save files. In hindsight, I probably should have tested this shade skip on a different save before redoing the entire run twice. I could use the glitch now, but I decided to clear a path to Crystal Dash ahead of time. Oh! I thought Cyclone Slash might help me control my height while floating, but it ended up being pretty forgettable. And now that the path is cleared, after so many failures, we can finally get Crystal Dash. Oh no. The game doesn't accept inputs until we fall down and officially get Crystal Dash, but since the float glitch stops us from falling, we're completely soft-locked. And so, with Crystal Dash so close, yet so far, the journey to make it this far flashed before my eyes. And the platforming section doesn't even have any enemies, so it could never be a threat to the run. There's a few tricky sections, but nothing we can't get past with a little ingenuity. And since Shade Cloak requires killing Hornet 2, and Ismiz requires killing Dung Defender, Crystal Dash is our only option. But I figured Cyclone Slash might help too. It's not going to save the run or anything, but it's a nice option to have. Wait, save the run? Damn it, how could I have missed such obvious foreshadowing? Cyclone Slash wasn't useful for the float glitch since it doesn't make you gain or lose height, but by mashing the attack button, we can stall just long enough to make this jump. And while some of the other jumps in this room are a little challenging, once we finally get Crystal Dash, nothing can stop us. And so, through the power of glitches, we managed to cut the kill count all the way down to just the main bosses and the 3 Aspids. If you consider the Watcher Knights as just 1 kill like the Hunter's Journal, that's a kill count of only 6, down from at least 15. And so, with the kill count down to the lowest it can reasonably go, the Hollow Knight Pacifist run ends with a total kill count of 6. But just because that's the lowest it can reasonably go, doesn't mean it's the lowest it can possibly go. Because if we're using glitches anyways, we might as well go all in. But before we do that, we have some setup to do. First, we have to unlock Godseeker mode. This just requires beating the first 3 Pantheons, but hunting down all the bosses to open them can take a while. Don't worry about killing enemies, we won't be using this file for the run. Once we unlock Godseeker mode, we need to delete all of our save files. Make sure that you back them up if you don't want to lose them permanently. From here, we need to downpatch the game to 1.4.3.2 for a glitch we'll be using later. Technically, there's better patches to use, but this is the easiest one to install. With each save file cleared, we can get to the main glitch we're going to be using, main menu storage. The first thing we need to do to set up main menu storage is create a Godseeker file in the 3rd save slot. Once we load into Godhome, just save and quit while sitting on a bench. From here, we need to do this. I'll explain exactly what happens here in a second. Alright, let me explain what just happened. The first thing I did was overlay 2 menus on top of each other. You can do this by pressing escape at the exact right moment after exiting the quick game menu. The time you want to aim for is when the main menu screen starts to fade in, but it's easier to just mash the escape button until it works. The timing is frame perfect, so turn on VSync to limit the frame rate. Once you have 2 menus up, you'll want to enter the Start Game screen and click Clear Save on slot 3. This frees up the area around the Start Game button. Once we click Start Game, we first click on our Godseeker file, then on a new save file, and lastly select Standard Mode. The easiest way to do this is just by spam clicking the spots ahead of time until you hear the sound effects for them. By following the sequence, we load a Godseeker save into the start of the game, letting us start with a maxed out save file. The game also stores another thing from the Godseeker file, the fact that we quit out at a bench. The game still thinks we're sitting down, so it turns off gravity and collision. At least it turns off the collision with the walls. This glitch is called Bench Storage No Clip. The problem with no clip glitches is that it's even easier to softlock yourself with them than with float glitches. We at least have a reliable way of moving down using Dashmaster, but it's very easy to accidentally fall through the floor. You can also only dash downwards while the game doesn't think you're grounded. If it does think you're grounded while in mid-air, you can dream nail to correct it, but this will stop you from dashing until you ground yourself again. So to avoid unnecessary no-clip movement, we'll be quitting out at Dirtmouth to set up our save file using normal movement. Since Godseeker files don't have the Hunter's Journal, our first goal is to go get it to track our kills. On the way, we get some essence so we can Dreamgate later. Since we have Ismast here, we can get to Green Path through Cobb Canyon. Just make sure you don't accidentally blow up the jellyfish. From here, we can pretty easily get Journal. The journal itself might be glitched out, but if it is, you can just save and exit to fix it. If you've done things right so far, you should only have the Crawled and Shade entries. The journal still works properly, but the sound effect doesn't play when you get a new entry, so make sure you don't accidentally save over any kills. To complete our setup, we want to change our current save file to be on slot 3 to use main menu storage on it. You can do this by just renaming the files in your Hollow Knight saves. It's kind of inconsistent, but just keep trying until it works. This isn't strictly necessary, but I found it's easiest to load from slot 3. You'll be doing this a lot, so a little easier goes a long way. With all of that setup done, we can get to the actual run. Our main goal is to use main menu storage to kill Monomon and Lurien without having to fight Umu or the Watcher Knights. Since we're loading our setup file with Journal, we'll keep our journal progress in the new file. I'll go through each room and show you the setups I used for each. King's Pass is very easy, just go straight to the right until the door. For Dirtmouth, crystal dash until you reach the center of this background object, and then dash down to the well. Dash when you're a bit below the ground in this room, and just wait for the tick-tick to move if you have to. For this room, just dash downwards and pray. If you miss the screen transition, you can double jump back into it for a second chance. These next two rooms are super easy. For this room, walk just off this edge and then dash down. For this room, try to align yourself with the left edge of this block and just go straight down from there. Just shade dash through the enemies in this room and use a shade soul to catch yourself when you dash down. You can do the same thing in this room to get into archives. In this room, get hit by an enemy to kill your momentum, and then dash into the acid to catch yourself. Keep dashing into acid until the room just before Umu. Umu will spawn if you go into the lower half of this room, so stop your momentum before then. From here, just run right and dash down. And from here, just jump up to Monomon. That's one dreamer down. If you didn't set a dream gate, you can escape archives by doing main menu storage again, since Monomon being dead will get transferred. It's a lot easier to just dream gate though. Next up is Lurian. I'm going to use main menu storage again to get near him, so I reordered my save files to put the save with Monomon dead in slot 3. From here we follow the same route until the Cornifer room. Crossroads is infected since we killed Monomon, but that doesn't change the route much. The screen transition still exists in this room, it's just blocked. Keep heading right for the next few rooms. The Vengefly in this room is pretty annoying, but you can dodge him with a bit of luck. The rooms to the city elevator are really easy. The enemies in this room can hit you, but they're not too bad. For this room, just hold right until a bit before the elevator, then dash to the bridge. Like in our last run, the lights are off in this room, so you'll have to hit the lever in the dark. Although now that I think about it, you could probably hit the lever to turn them on. After opening the path, rest at this bench and quit out to cancel noclip. Now, you might be wondering why we aren't keeping noclip to get past Watcher Knights. The reason is that we can't actually go through vertical screen transitions with noclip. Like when we got C-dash while floating, we don't get control of the knight until we hit the ground, but since we never land, we just fly off forever. Instead, we'll be skipping Watcher Knights with a glitch called elevator storage. The way elevators work in this game is by storing whether you're on the elevator, and then moving you up and down with it if you are. But, if we land on the very edge of the elevator, and then touch the spikes, the game forgets to remove the on an elevator status. Make sure you don't touch the elevator afterwards, or it'll correct this. Now, if we move the elevator upwards, since it still thinks we're on it, we move up too. Similarly, moving it down makes us move down, even through the floor if you're not careful. This glitch was patched in the most recent version, which is why we downpatched to 1.4.3.2. To skip Watcher Knights, all we have to do is use a Bishrick while being pushed upwards to clip through the ceiling. And that's our second dreamer down. Like with Monomon, we can use a dream gate or main menu storage to get out of here. From here we can head straight to Hera like our last run. And we can take advantage of a quirk of Godseeker mode to get some more Geo. You see, in Godseeker mode, we can't actually pick up Geo. But that doesn't mean our bank account can't pick up Geo. This isn't really necessary, but it sure is convenient. Speaking of convenient, we can just shade dash through everything in Beast's Den. And now that our victory lap is complete, we can move on to the one and only required kill for this run, the Hollow Knight, the Radiance. That's right, not only can we make it into the Black Egg without any kills, since we start out with Voidheart, Hornet shows up during the Hollow Knight fight to let us into the true final boss. And to top it all off, since Godseeker mode makes us so overpowered, I beat the Radiance hitless on my first try. And so, the all glitches Hollow Knight Pacifist run ends with a total kill count of only 1. The Hollow Knight definitely also dies in the true ending, but we don't get its journal entry, so it's not my problem. Also, special thanks to this guy in the Hollow Knight Discord for reminding me about Cyclone Slash, and also this guy for helping me with the all glitches run. And thank you for watching. This video has taken a really long time to make, so you should like and subscribe!